Hey, I think we're live. Okay. And let's just make sure my mic is... Yeah, it seems it's getting up into that bad range. Oh no, that's not too bad at all, actually. Hey folks, let me just make sure everything's working properly before I start. Wow. Oop. Oh, this will be interesting. Yeah. I got a viewer already. That's really cool. Let me just share this around. Go over to Discord. Okay, I think it's everybody. Let me get a good swig of water and we'll start this. Hey folks, and welcome to an episode of the Saturday afternoon stream. I am attempting to stream today. Things are a little weird here. I got my new PC this past week. So I'm not streaming off a laptop. I'm not playing off a laptop for the first time in, God, like close to 15 years. Yeah, I've got a desktop again. It's a very nice one, if I do say so myself. So I need to get a longer cable for my microphone. It's kind of taut, and I like my cables to have a little more slack in them, just in case anything goes awry. And I've had to make sure, everything I want to do now, working on my channel, I'm like, okay, what programs do I need? What fonts do I need? You build up this repository of things you use for years and years. And then when you move to a new system, or I guess if you have to format your system for whatever reason, yeah, it's always like, oh, damn, okay, I need this, I need this, I need this, I need this. So I'm still in the midst of that. This is the second day of, it's Saturday here. I went and picked the PC up on Thursday morning. I pretty much got it ready to test things out on Thursday night. So yeah, I haven't even really used it for 2 full days yet. But so far so good. I'm very, very happy with the purchase. I've been able to try some modern games that had no chance of running on my laptop. But with that said, I thought we'd continue with Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe. Hey Shane, how you doing? Haven't been in here a while. I hope everything is going well for you. Last week we started going into the new content, and the narrator opened up that he has a sequel ready for us to look at, and he had all these features that he wanted to put in the sequel. Now, I've copied my save over to this computer, and I've loaded up the game, and it looks like I might have to replay the start of the sequel bit, but that's okay. I think we'll be good. If not, I'll do a couple endings of the original game. We'll see how we go, eh? Currently in a capsule hotel in Sydney. Wow, that's different. What you down in Sydney for? And Sydney has capsule hotels? Wow. Well, why not, right? Okay, but let us start the Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe. It asked me to set the time again, and when I did, the game thanked me for actually taking the time to set the correct time. Followed by Cruise. Let me just move my mouse and keyboard. Yeah, look, it's going to do it again. And why not? We'll do it again. It's 103. Oh yeah, it asked me. It was so happy he just decided to let me set my favorite time of day. Or could you simply not resist giving me the correct time again? Down here for concert. Who you seeing? So I know how much you enjoy setting the time correctly. Okay, now I'm curious how accurate 1 at 3 p.m. is. Let's use another slider to find out. Oh no. Well, now it's 1:04, so let's put it there. Now, can I just say, regardless of the accuracy of the clock, I'm going to have a great time adjusting these settings. I feel like I'm learning more about you and how you like things to be set. It's good to collect data. I wish we had more sliders, but we've gone through all the sliders I have. Perhaps I can invent some new sliders to gather new data on you. Oh no. XG, a Japanese K-pop group. A Japanese K-pop group. A Japanese Korean pop group? Or has K-pop just become a genre that subsumes everyone making that kind of music no matter where they're from? Or are they Koreans living in Japan? Shouldn't be too hard. Yeah, let me whip up a couple new ones. Should be ready by the next time you boot up the game. Oh goody. Okay. Okay, Japanese members, but they came through the K-pop system.
Stanley worked for a company in a big building where he was employee number...
Okay, well, we've all seen that. You can watch the last episode if you want to catch.
Workers were gone. What could it mean?
What could it mean?
Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
Is the game audio adequately up enough?
Oh, good. You noticed my sign. Yes, I have something very exciting to say.
Okay, so this is the start of the sequel bit from last time. Actually, just because I used a new save, let's just see if I've got the settings right. Yep, cool. We're playing this on high. In all its glory.
I've been reflecting on the Stanley Parable and about how roundly disappointing this ultra deluxe...
One of the members is Japanese Australian. To the shock of nobody, she's quite popular here. Oh yes, Australia will claim any tenuous link to celebrity.
I say we take it one step.
Yeah, gotta get comfortable.
Which is why I'm very proud to announce for the first time ever the Stanley Parable 2.
Yay!
Yes, you see, isn't this far superior to a measly re-release with a few minor additions? Think of all the new territory we'll cover with a fully fledged sequel. An entirely new experience, built from the ground up. Why, there are so many possibilities. It could go in so many different directions. This is what fans have truly been asking for.
Oh yeah, and just on the...
Stanley Parable 2 is just so much catchier than Ultra...
Quiet, I'm talking.
What does it even mean?
Instead of streaming off Wi-Fi, I've now got a wired connection, so hopefully that stops the streams from getting interrupted.
It screams progress and
Innovation and long-term franchising potential.
Now, to be clear, I haven't quite nailed down what exactly the Stanley Parable 2 is going to be, but let's take a look at some of the features I've been developing for it. I figure that if I can loosely organize a handful of interesting concepts, that surely the game will sort of naturally spring up.
Sorry, I'm kind of speed running back to where we were last time.
Development is much more of a fuzzy magic than anything scientific or logical, really.
I remember that. I watched it on the new content bus. I was so hoping that the Stanley Parable 2 would be the exact same game as the first one, only with a cool new hat. Well, in the first episode, when you enter the room that says new content, you take that elevator up, and there's a jump circle, and you get to jump, and that's it. And the narrator is so mad about that, that we've been on quite the adventure as he's reminisced on the past, and we've somehow sped to the end time, and now he's created a sequel.
Here we are. Go on. Try out some of the new features.
This was fun. I'll just do this bit again, because that was funny.
For the Stanley Parable 2, I asked myself, what do players really want?
Too big, too small.
The obvious answer is that they want to be individually recognized and validated as...
True as it ever was.
That in mind, my first addition to the game is this button which speaks the name of the person playing the game. Isn't that wonderful? Sorry, I should have clarified. Right now, the button only says the name Jim. But of course, in the final game, this button will say your name, whatever name that is.
Jim.
Let's have you role-play as Jim to really simulate the full experience of this feature. Just play along. I promise you'll love it. Okay, here we go. Let's take a deep breath, clear your mind, forget whoever you are, and simply become a person named Jim. I want you to imagine yourself living as Jim.
How would Jim play the Stanley Parable?
In love and being heartbroken as Jim, seizing all of the world's possibilities as Jim, and as Jim watching your dreams crumble into dust. Do you feel...
Not my dreams.
Are you really, truly Jim right now? If so, then please step forward and press the button.
I think I'm Jim adjacent. Because I live next to the lift. Oh, wow, I screwed that up. I'm Jim adjacent because I live next to the weightlifting area. Boom. Wasn't that worth it?
You see, what a thrill.
Hey, dork.
That was you. The button described you. Do it again, do it again. Ooh, it hits even harder the second time. If this were the only new it would still be...
It's still pretty funny.
Let's take a break from the Jim button. I'm too emotionally drained from all of this personal validation. Whoa there, cowboy. Sometimes a person can be too much Jim. I'm putting the Jim button away. Otherwise, soon you'll start to lose all sense of who you actually are.
Aww. It's no 0 out of 10. How you doing, dork? I am streaming for my brand new computer!
I suppose I could allow only people named Jim to play the Stanley Parable 2. That would actually save me the work of finishing this feature.
So let's see, we did the infinity hole, we did the reassurance bucket, we did the epilogue. I think the only thing left was to go in the exit. Red is the new orange. Ooh. Good, I'm good, my man, my homie, my G. Oh yeah, the collectibles. I remember that. I wonder if they actually exist. Out of order? Oh, so I have been here already. What's this? Oh yeah, the free achievement. Did that already. Okay. Yeah, I guess we'll just leave, because we did the infinite hole, and that was fun. Ooh. Those are like Rorschach tests.
All right. Have you seen everything you wanted to? Ready to move on now?
Whoa. That's trippy.
So, Stanley, what do you think? Do you like all of the new features?
No.
It's not exactly clear yet how exactly these features will come together as one single coherent video game, but I can feel it in my soul. It's going to work. There's definitely a good game in there somewhere. Say, let's do an experiment. I'll arrange these new features together, and we'll see whether or not it coheres into a meaningful gameplay experience. Okay. Are you ready?
Yes.
Here it is. I give you the Stanley Parable 2. Well, I mean, there's potential here, right? It's sort of...
It's got balloons.
Okay, yes, yes, this is much better. I feel good about this. Here we go. Version 2.
Better.
Who am I kidding, Stanley? This isn't a coherent video game at all. I do very much enjoy creating gags, but they don't add up to anything. I wanted more than anything to create a sequel that would capture all the magic of the first game. I wanted fans to love it. No matter how good these gags are, they won't stand on their own. They would need the structure and the gameplay of the original. Wait, maybe that's it. I can take the original Stanley Parable and simply, well, insert a few of my new features into it. Tastefully.
Oh, tastefully. Mm-hmm.
With care for the vision and integrity of the original game. Would it possibly work? I suppose it could, but it would need a really screen. A title screen that says with bold and uncompromising conviction, "This is the Stanley Parable 2." Let me see if I can whip something up. All right, perfect. Go ahead. Take a look.
Ooh. So is this an actual sequel now? If it is, I do. I think I said this at the end of the last episode. I wish I'd played around more with the original.
This is the story of a man named Stanley. Stanley worked for a company in a big building where he was employee number 427. Employee number 427's job was simple. He sat at his desk in room 427.
Let me move. Sorry about the screeching.
Orders came to him through a monitor on his desk, telling him what buttons to push, how long to push them, and in what order. This is what employee 427 did every day of every month of every year.
Oh, check the settings. That would have been a good idea.
Stanley relished every moment that the orders came in, as though he had been made exactly for this job.
But once the game starts, I will see if it has the same title screen once I press escape.
One day, something very peculiar happened. Something that would forever change Stanley. Something he would never quite forget. He had been at his desk for nearly an hour when he realized that not one single order had arrived on the monitor for him to follow. No one had showed up to give him instructions, call a meeting, or even say hi. Never in all his years at the company had this happened, this complete isolation. Something was very clearly wrong. Shocked, frozen solid, Stanley found himself unable to move for the longest time. But as he came to his wits and regained his senses, he got up from his desk and stepped out of his office.
It's just the normal settings of the game. The sequel is now paused.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo. Stanley picked up the bucket.
Ooh, now I can play the game with the reassurance bucket.
Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his chest and entered the door on his left. Still no one was here. Stanley needed the bucket's warmth and comfort now more than ever. Perhaps his boss's office was where he'd find answers.
Oh, Stanley, can you feel it? The broom closet. It wants the bucket. You can feel that, can't you? The aura of jealousy. It's as clear as day. This broom closet believes it deserves the bucket. I can really feel it now. It's a bucket. It belongs in a broom closet. That's what the broom closet is trying to say here. It's supposed to go with the other cleaning supplies. Good for you, Stanley. Don't give in. Don't hand over the bucket. I know how hard it must be, given the pressure that the broom closet is putting on your shoulders right now, but you have to be strong. This is your
I don't know if I can resist.
and lifelong friend. You can't hand it over. Oh no. We're getting into name-calling now, it seems. Is this how low the broom closet has sunk, that it has to resort to this stream of petty insults simply in order to get you to hand over the bucket? Stanley, I never liked this broom closet for a variety of reasons, but even this is worse than I had imagined. And wait, now the broom closet has the gall to imply that you and the bucket are not truly deep and friends, that your relationship is purely superficial and convenient, that your life is so banal and meaningless that you'd feel the same sort of kinship towards any inanimate object which happened to lay in your path in an even partially enticing
Stop attacking me!
Go on, Stanley. Lay into it. Really tell the broom closet off for its demeaning comments. Expand on the wide variety of experiences you and the bucket have shared together. Go through each of them point by point. Share your journal entries detailing the rich emotional landscape of your feelings for the bucket as they have changed and evolved over the years. Let him have it.
This bucket is my friend. The end.
Okay, I've got you something which I think will help settle this debate once and for all. Here we go. No more debate, no more discussion. Take a hike, broom closet, with all your meandering philosophical diatribes about the nature of cleaning supplies and their relationship to broom closets in the natural order of things. All right, I've got a second sticker back here, and I'm going to slap it on as well because I think it's appropriate. You see, I feel that it works because the sticker is also a bucket. That way, if you're ever unsure whether the thing you're holding is a bucket or not, you can look down at this sticker and say to yourself, ah, it's a bucket. There really is a wide variety of applications.
If a bucket has a hole in the bottom of it, so it can't actually hold things, is it technically still a bucket?
You know what? I could take the name-calling and the dismissal of your kinship with the bucket, but now the broom closet is just silent treatment. And to be honest, I'm sick of the pettiness on display. You can stay here all you like, but I've had it with this impetulant room of cleaning supplies. Easily the most childish such room I've ever been in. I'll see you outside, and we can get on with the story about you and your bucket.
Ooh. That's a good one, Dork. Does a toilet paper roll have one hole or two holes? I'm gonna say one.
Staircase. Stanley and the bucket walked upstairs to the boss's office.
Whoa.
You found one of them. One of the miniature
Yay!
No reward for all of these. Only the intrinsic pleasure of a job well done. You can't buy that sort of happiness, Stanley. God knows I've tried. So, I implore you to savor each and every moment you come across one of these beautiful figurines. But Stanley just couldn't do it. He considered the possibility of facing his boss, admitting he had left his post during work hours. He might be fired for that. And in such a competitive economy, why had he taken that risk? All because he believed everyone had vanished? His boss would think he was crazy. And then, something occurred to Stanley. Maybe, he thought to himself, maybe I am crazy. He looked.
Well, I am carrying around a bucket.
Am I crazy? He asked the bucket.
There we go.
The bucket returned his gaze, but said nothing at all. That's strange, Stanley thought. Usually the bucket is a source of guidance and wisdom for me in difficult times such as these. He held the bucket close, yet felt none of its familiar reassurance and comfort. And that's when Stanley realized, this isn't my bucket. It's just a normal, everyday bucket. Someone else's bucket, perhaps. How did I end up with someone else's bucket? This is all terribly wrong. Surely no good would come from this. Who knows what sorts of bizarre hallucinations Stanley might experience without the psychologically grounding presence of his bucket. Now he noticed that the rooms were repeating, which was, of course, very odd. And now he felt himself floating off the ground. Oh, gracious, he exclaimed.
Oh no!
Bucket, I've gone truly mad. Where is it? I must find it. Far off in the distance now, he heard it, calling to him.
Stanley! Stanley, it's me, the bucket.
Could it truly be? He rushed forward from room to room, passing by one bucket after the next. None of them were his. None of them were his special.
No! These are all normal buckets.
Find me.
Passé buckets.
Find the bucket. He had to return to his old friend. It was the only way to truly restore his sanity. And then suddenly, he froze dead in his tracks. He knew where the voice of the bucket had been coming from.
He was the bucket all along.
It was inside of him all along. It was incredibly painful. Stanley doubled over in agony and blacked out.
Yeah.
This is the story of a woman named Mariella. Mariella woke up on a day like any other. She arose, got dressed, picked up her bucket of comfort and security, and walked to her place of work. But on this particular day, her walk was interrupted by the body of a man who had stumbled through town, talking and screaming to himself, and then collapsed dead on the sidewalk. Right away, she knew what the problem was. This man had no bucket.
And yet he was looking pale.
Gone mad, ranting and raving about a narrator describing all of his actions and how everything is predetermined and free will is an illusion and it's all just a video game. It could all have been prevented if only he...
Hey, you took the bucket from me.
Perhaps he didn't even realize he'd forgotten his bucket at home in the first place. How cruel the world can be, Mariella thought, and she hugged her own bucket even tighter. But of course, she had no time for this. There were a myriad of confusing problems she would soon have to confront at work, for which her bucket would provide absolute guidance and total clarity on everything. Heck yes, she thought to herself, my life kicks ass.
Must be nice.
All the way to work. All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Stanley lifted the bucket into his arms, and a wave of comfort rushed over him. Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his chest and entered the door on his left.
There will be a reward for finding them all. Wow. There must be a point to this all. Trust the completionist instinct. Why wouldn't they just tell us something will happen? This investigation, this room, they feel pointless. Weird spinning figures. Maybe we are the collectibles. I wish I could jump. Whenever you're waiting around for things to do in a first-person game, you should jump.
Stanley, we must move on from this broom closet, simply because I have no remaining stickers. If I did, you can guarantee we'd be in here for hours. But alas, no stickers.
Fine.
Coming to a staircase, Stanley and the bucket walked upstairs to the boss's office. Another miniature stand.
Yay!
This, you know, there really must be a snappier name for these things. What about mini stands? Stanley figs? Or what about Stanlerines? Yes, I think I like this.
Stan latrines.
Stanlerine under your belt.
Oh. let's see where this goes. Me and my bucket. Do. How long is this gonna go for? You ever played the Neverhood, that claymation adventure game from the mid-90s? Where like early on in the game, you could like, I think eat a berry or something and the character would burp, and you'd eat another berry and the burp would go on for like 20 to 30 seconds. Then if you had a third or a fourth one, I forget how many it took, but the burp went on for like a minute or two. They really elongated the gag. Now the bucket orchestra. Hear the narrator singing along. Hey, Roo. Jokes about Dear Henry? I do not understand. Would you rather this or walking through a very, very long ravine? Oh, hole in the bucket. I know that as Dear Liza. But what if it was a really, 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 really wide ravine? Bridges are nice. Oh! Did it do nothing? Or did I just not have the patience to wait it out?
Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. Crushed by the weight of this revelation, Stanley may have broken down into an emotional dumpster fire, if not for the soothing presence. In his darkest of hours. It would be with him, always. The bucket would. And he knew it. The two of them were inseparable. At this point, Stanley was so absorbed in the tender spiritual connection he shared with the bucket that he didn't notice the keypad behind the boss's desk. Nor in his bliss of simply being near the bucket did he have any notion that the PIN number for the keypad was 2845.
Look at this. This ashtray has like a bucket handle. I'm going to do 0451 and see if there's an IMSIM thing going on.
Stanley just sat around twiddling his thumbs. Trying to input anything on the device was useless, since he could never possibly know that the combination was 2845. Forgot, but it turns out that the panel's emergency override kicked in, and the door just opened all by itself, and Stanley got the hell along with the story. Well, whoop-de-doo.
Hey!
Okay, I'm going back to the name of these little Stanley figurines, and now I'm torn between Stanlerines and Figlies.
Ooh, I do like Figlies.
What name better encapsulates the intrinsic sense of happiness that you get from seeing a small number
Although Figly does sound like fig leaf.
The elevator raced up.
Hello, Pickle Penguin. What a name.
It would be all Stanley could do to keep himself together, if not for the bucket.
If doth full of the bucket.
Comforting him, reassuring that in this darkest moment of uncertainty, he would be all right. The bucket is here for you, Stanley. Everything...
Oh, Rue, that sucks. Just had a transformer or something blow up in the area and knock out power across the area. Oh, AC or fans. So you're trying to keep cool and you're watching my stream on your phone? I appreciate it, but wow. I feel so bad for you.
Stanley and the bucket walked straight ahead through the large door that read, Mind Control Facility.
Oh, and the weather's been so bad lately. Well, you know, never mind. I'll just say it anyway. Rue's a friend. She lived very close by, so after I'm done streaming, you're more than welcome to come over and hang in my aircon.
Although this passageway had the word escape written on it, the truth was that at the end of the door behind them was not shut. Stanley and the bucket still had every opportunity to turn around and get back on track.
Anyone ever play Blood? And at the end of the first level of Blood, there's a tunnel that you can walk down the tunnel.
Stanley and the bucket were knowingly walking forward into a very painful death for each of them.
And the text on the screen says, turn back now. This way only leads to death. And then if you walk far enough, the game just kills you. Vampire Rain? Isn't that one of those 360 action adventure titles? Whoa! Whoa. It's good thing I have the bucket. I'm on it. Elevator. Oh no!
As the machine whirred into motion and Stanley and the bucket inched closer to their demise, Stanley reflected on how meaningless the bucket's warmth and comfort had turned out to be. To be sure, it puts the mind and the soul at ease to embrace the bucket, but what use is a sense of ease when you're about to be crushed to death? This is what Stanley thought to himself, and he sort of kicked himself for wasting so much time carrying a bucket everywhere. Farewell, Stanley.
"Farewell, Stanley," cried the narrator, as Stanley and the bucket were led helplessly into the enormous metal jaws. In a single visceral instant, the bucket's life came to an end, as it was crushed violently to death.
No! Is the bucket sacrificing itself?
It was a shame, the death of such a magnificent bucket. It's true that all buckets are radiant in their own way, but this one stood above the rest. It was a glorious bucket to behold.
You are standing at the precipice of knowledge. Much like a bucket itself, the human mind is frequently empty within a cavernous void. But through use of the exhibit in front of you, the mind becomes full and enriched and substantiated. Knowledge of the bucket and its history is the only true knowledge we really have. Will you take what you learn here out with you into the world? Will you accept with an open mind what may be challenging about the information in this exhibit? Will you change the lives of yourself and your loved ones as a result of this exhibit? Or will you turn a blind eye and continue to live as you were, in ignorance and darkness? Rue says, poor bucket kicked the bucket. But there's no kick button.
Can you see how arrogant it was for Stanley to take a bucket like this and to claim it for his own? Can you see the hubris that blinded him? Can you see that the bucket is far more noble than Stanley will ever be in his short life?
This is giving me real beginner's guide vibes. A photograph of 25 buckets, the greatest number of buckets ever captured on camera. The photographer experienced catatonic shock for several weeks as a result of the euphoria from exposure to this many buckets at once. No, Sarah McLachlan. The Vitruvian bucket. A bucket with two handles. This bucket is depicted as having two handles. Such a design has never been created in real life, having been deemed too dangerous and recklessly experimental. Every year, dozens are put to death just for attempting it. But what if you were to combine the two handles into like a thicker handle? Blasphemer! Heretic! Whoa, a wooden bucket. Très chic. Inferno bucket. A replica of the Inferno bucket, which is in the medieval era was so powerfully alluring that it drove dozens of nations to war with one another for control of it. Billions died, and yet in spite of it all, the simple fact remains no one can control a bucket. The stress bucket, an analogy. Worrying, negative forecasting, negative thinking, lack of reinsurance. Ooh, I get it. It's one of them metaphors presented with that commentary. You can help save a bucket by making a small regular donation to the Bucket Welfare League. What are other synonyms for bucket? I've already made a pail pun. I guess container is another one. Ooh, and you can hear the drums. While we know that buckets predate the existence of mankind, we do not know by how long. This cave drawing depicts early man's discovery of the practical uses of the bucket, by which time the bucket had already likely been around for several millennia. Notice in these drawings how the bucket is allowing itself to be used, having judged humanity to be worthy of its treasures.
No man can own a bucket, and certainly not a bucket as dazzling to behold as this one. It is man who should kneel before the bucket.
We found ourselves in a weird offshoot of the game here. Ooh, the hanging bucket. This piece symbolizes the necessary relationship between bucket and humanity. However clear our grasp of the bucket may be, there is yet more that is always out of reach. This distance, inevitably, is for our own good. But I want it! I can grab it! I transcended!
But there is something we can do. Something we can do together, you and I, that will right this terrible wrong. Let Stanley die. Let him be crushed by the machine. Don't reset the game. Don't give him another opportunity to run off with another beautiful bucket. We can save the world's buckets from their treatment as tools and implements if only we let Stanley die together. The bucket shall take its place as ruler, as leader, as commander of a new world, a new vision.
What was any of that? Vessel, pitcher, tub, can, scuttle. Huh. Not. Box with handle, metal cylinder box.
All his co-workers were gone. What could it mean?
I like vessel.
Decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps the confusion and the chaos all seemed to melt away as Stanley embraced the bucket.
Okay, let's see what the true ending feels like with the bucket.
The door on his left.
Large room, lots of boxes, somewhere between red and blue. Plot, Dave. It was plot. Plot?
Stanley, we must move on from this broom closet, simply because I have no remaining stickers. If I did, you can guarantee we'd be in here for hours. But alas, no stickers.
Do you have anything else to say? Fine. Okay.
Staircase, Stanley and the bucket walked upstairs to the boss's office.
Also, why did narrator change voices?
Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. Crushed by the weight of this revelation, Stanley guessed the correct code by sheer luck. Was it that the bucket knew all along? Was the bucket guiding him? Yes, this is so.
Clearly. Logical. The bucket knew all along. All hail the mighty bucket.
Stanley and the bucket walked straight ahead through the large door that read, Mind Control Facility. The lights rose on an enormous room packed with television screens. What horrible secret did this place hold? Stanley and the bucket both wondered to themselves. The monitors jumped to life. And
Fired? Fired?
everyone in the office was being videotaped.
Oh no.
Like guinea pigs. The bucket had never seen anything like this, and it very nearly burst into tears as Stanley cradled it gently, reassuring it that
The sentence was odd. Stanley and the bucket walked ahead. The bucket walked? Well, rolled. Clanged. Stanley is the bucket's vessel.
was the bucket under the mind control facility's influence as well? Had
I'm just so amazed that they've put all this time and effort into such silliness. Like, you know, the first game was silly enough.
He couldn't accept it. His own life in someone else's control, never! He squeezed the bucket tighter. His one friend in the entire world. At this point, he could trust no one except for
Yes, if you're very good in this life, you will reincarnate as a bucket.
But here was the proof. The heart of the operation. Controls labeled with emotions, happy or sad or content. Walking, eating, working, all of it monitored and commanded from this very place. And as the cold reality of his past began to sink in, Stanley decided that this machinery would never again exert its terrible power over another human life. For he and the bucket would dismantle the controls for good. Two best friends, Stanley and the bucket, up against the world. They high-fived in a really cool way. It made a sassy comment about taking down the system.
Sassy. Why don't we take down the system? Oh, you sassy bucket. After all, Dave, we are said to merely be vessels. Yeah, I was thinking about something how, like, you could technically call a shoe a bucket for your feet, and shoes have soles, but didn't work. There's got to be more to do in that last room.
When at last they came to the source of the room's power, Stanley and the bucket knew it was their obligation to put an end to this horrible place and to everything it stood for.
I did say that, Dork. I don't want the responsibility.
Stanley and the bucket waited in blackness. Was it over? Yes, they had done it. Stanley and the bucket had defeated their greatest and darkest enemy, freed themselves from the tyrannical grip of the evil mind control machine. Freedom was now mere moments away. Excitedly, the two of them began to discuss the kind of life they wanted to live once they stepped through this massive door. The bucket wanted to learn to row. Stanley wanted to squeeze in every country on Earth. Both of them wanted to begin watching a movie, any movie, but then stop it halfway through and begin watching it in reverse from the end. True, it wasn't
Weird.
the life they envisioned, but it was one they'd lived together, with one another to lean on, to trust, to support, and... What? Wait. What was happening? Why had the door stopped? Was Stanley and the bucket not about to be freed? An unbearable silence filled the room, lingering in uncertainty, until finally the truth hit Stanley square in the face. This building did not want the bucket to leave.
Oh no! Oh no!
The facility itself recognized the incredible calming presence of the bucket, needed the soothing warmth of the bucket, would go to any lengths not to part with the bucket. No, no, no. Stanley can't leave this place. Not while he has such a precious bucket in his arms. Not while this building has anything to say about it. Stanley realized he would never again leave this very room. But at least he has the bucket. To be trapped eternally in darkness isn't really so bad, Stanley thought to himself. As long as I have my bucket with me, right? I'll be okay, won't I? Stanley gulped. Very soon now, he was about to find out.
Well. Why does it feel like Terry Pratchett would love this? Yeah.
His co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps
Warmth spread through Stanley's arms. With the bucket in his arms again, he was home.
Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his chest and entered the door on his left. This was not the correct way to the meeting room, but Stanley had felt the bucket calling to him, telling him that the employee lounge was simply the place to be. And here it was. Had the bucket turned out to be correct? Was this better than the meeting room? Yes, Stanley thought to himself. Yes, perhaps it truly was. How in snow? Never mind. The bucket was wrong. Stanley took the door on his left to go back to the meeting, and so the two of them detoured through the maintenance section and walked straight ahead to the opposite door. Oh, good, Stanley. I'm glad you found your way here. I knew you'd find this place eventually. It's this bucket you're carrying around everywhere. The bucket isn't even from the original Stanley Parable. It's just sequel content. We're the ones that matter, Stanley. Classic characters from the first game, like the Adventure Line and the Broom Closet. Because that's what fans want from a sequel. They want more of their favorite jokes, not this bucket they've never seen before.
Lies.
I'm the one who gave you the bucket, but you're spending too much time with it. Don't you want another story involving the Adventure Line? We could make the Adventure Line go somewhere new. Yes, yes, that's what the fans want. Let's do it.
What is more powerful, the building, the bucket, or the narrator? The world may never know. Stop having free will, Dave. Ow. Why am I getting pins and needles in my hand? That's weird.
Look at that wacky line. Who knows where it'll go off to next? Oh, and it played some silly music as well.
Wait, does that say raw assets? The only map, engine import?
Now this
Aww.
Stanley Parable is all about. Don't you remember all those great jokes from the original dialogue?
Also, Stanley is addicted to drugs and hookers.
Yes, it's as classic now as it was back then. Let's do it for the fans, Stanley. Let's give them more content exactly like this. But if we want to do that, you're going to have to give something up.
I will not give up the bucket. You can't make me give up the bucket.
Don't you get it, Stanley?
No.
The bucket.
No.
That's why I'm very proud to introduce a brand new character. This is the Bucket Destroyer. I think it'll make a wonderful new addition to the rich lore of the Stanley Parable. True, it also was not in the original game, but it's such a well-fleshed-out character with so much personality that to me, it already feels as though it's been part of the cast all along. Don't you agree?
No.
Can you guess what the Bucket Destroyer does? Surely you don't need me to...
No.
Go ahead now, Stanley. Say goodbye to the bucket, and then pop it into the machine when you're ready.
No, I will not.
Now listen to me. It's crucial that you give it the bucket. I don't know what the Bucket Destroyer will do if it can't destroy your...
Let's find out.
Destroying buckets is all it knows. That is its singular personality trait.
I'm going to stand right here.
You saying, how does a character with only one personality trait deserve to join the Stanley Parable characters? Well, you see, if you were to really explore the Bucket Destroyer, you would see that its desire to crush buckets is so densely loaded with complexity and nuance that it's really like 10 personality traits. What other object in this game can you even say that about? The broom closet? I wonder what sort of Bucket Destroyer merchant... The Bucket Destroyer is getting very upset now. You'll have to hurry and feed it. We can't get back to the classic Stanley Parable characters like the Adventure Line or the Bucket Destroyer until you crush that damn bucket. Quickly now. The fans are waiting. Do it, the fans, Stanley. Give the fans what they want. Hurry and...
Yay. Bucket will protect me.
Bucket Destroyer. Creation. You had so much potential. We were going to do such marvelous things with you, tell such spell-binding stories about you. All of it squandered now. Goodbye, new friend.
Maybe I should have given it the bucket, but I don't want to betray the bucket.
Magnificent.
I have done it. What's all this?
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
I can't read it.
Stanley picked up the bucket and smiled. He'd never be alone again, not truly alone, not with the bucket around.
What's with all the paper?
Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his chest and entered the... This was not the direct way to the meeting room, but Stanley had felt the bucket calling to him, telling him that the employee lounge was simply the place to be. And here it was. Had the bucket turned out to be...
Now, should I feed the bucket to the destroyer? Should I try that again?
Yes, perhaps it truly was. How insightful the bucket...
Or should I try something else first? I, I really don't want to destroy the bucket. That feels so mean.
No, never mind. The bucket was wrong. Stanley took the door on his left to go back to the meeting room.
Oh, staying in the lounge. Can't go back to the lounge, but sure, I'll try that next time.
Said the bucket.
Don't go to the meeting room. Go somewhere else. The cargo lift, yes. Go there. Go to the cargo lift.
The bucket has a really bad voice. So nasally.
Bucket.
Now ride the lift all the way to the top. There's something up there I need you...
Stanley didn't
Collectible!
know how this bucket was speaking to him. It should have alarmed him, of course, because buckets can't.
Collectible!
He chose not to think about this obvious fact. But Stanley feared that any path he walked might lead to the separation of himself and the bucket, his dearest friend. So he threw himself to his death, that they might die in one another's arms. How deeply touching.
Stanley needs to get a handle on things.
His co-workers were gone. What could it mean?
And now there's no paper.
To go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply the good old bucket. Just Stanley and the bucket, off on another thrilling adventure together. Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his chest. This was not the correct way to the meeting room, but Stanley had felt the bucket calling to him, telling him that the employee lounge was simply the place to be. And here it was. Had the bucket turned out to be correct? Was this better than the meeting room? Yes, Stanley thought to himself. Yes, perhaps it truly was. How insightful the bucket turned out to be.
Coffee, coffee, coffee. Ooh, coffee. Cold drinks.
Truly, being here with the bucket was a grand adventure. Stanley reflected on all they'd been through together. First, walking through the door on the right, then walking to the lounge, then arriving at the lounge. What a thrilling journey the bucket had inspired. Perhaps this was where the bucket felt most truly at home. Here in the employee lounge. Perhaps it's the only place a bucket can even feel at home.
Not the broom closet? I'm cosplaying as a vending machine.
Stanley decided
Ooh, bucket full of coffee.
absolutely as much time as it needed to be in the lounge. Clearly, the bucket and the employee lounge shared a special connection.
It just gave to me. Why not? It's why not indeed. Gonna say anything else, Mr. Narrator, or should I move on? Yay! I like being funny.
But finally, the bucket was in the lounge, and they took the first open door on their left to get back to business.
No,
Said the bucket.
don't go to the meeting room. Go somewhere else. The cargo lift, yes. Go there. Go to the cargo lift.
Okay, so obviously there's another way to get there. I can't jump on boxes because I can't jump. I don't know how to get it. Maybe I have to come back, or maybe it's another way. There's a ramp. Yeah, I know there's a ramp, but oh, there's a ramp here. I get what you mean now. Okay. Well, look at that. Wow. Hey. Cool. Thanks, it worked.
You're getting close now, Stanley. You've nearly gotten all of the Figler and Marines. Very soon, you'll collect the last one, and then the first number will equal the second number, and that...
Woo!
We'll be different people by then. Different in the sense that we used to have none of them. And now we have them all. You can't go back to when you had no Figler and Marines. None of us can.
Hey, Wraithgall's here. Hello. You've missed the epic adventures of Stanley and the Bucket. Ooh, where is this? I guess I ducked. Cassette tapes? What?
Okay, this is day number 295, tape number... I don't even know. I've lost track. Nothing feels real anymore. The longer I study this bucket, the less sense anything makes. The sheer euphoria I feel every time I pick it up.
I think he's supposed to be Stanley.
I've done
Oop.
It's always the same feeling. And the emptiness in my chest when I set it down. It doesn't make sense. There's no explanation for it. I still haven't figured out why I see the world so differently when this bucket is in my arms. Why everything feels so... What do I do with this treasure? I can monetize it. Yes. It's unthinkable the amounts of money people will pay for even just an hour with the bucket. This is my golden ticket. But I have to be careful, because as soon as this gets out, there's going to be a target on my...
Well, this got sinister.
Even now, I don't know who might be trying to get... What's that? Who's there?
Garambosia. How can you have an unhealthy relationship with the bucket?
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room.
Where are we going today? The bucket asked. Stanley just smiled. Would be perfectly fine with him.
Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his chest. This was not the correct way to the meeting room, but Stanley had felt the bucket calling to him, telling him that the employee lounge was simply the place to be. And here it was. Had the bucket turned out to be correct? No, never mind. The bucket was wrong. Stanley took the door on his left to go back to the meeting room.
No,
Said the bucket.
don't go to the meeting room. Go somewhere else. The cargo lift, yes. Good.
Said the bucket.
Now ride the lift all the way to the top. There's something up there I need you to do.
Ooh.
Stanley did not question why or how this bucket was speaking to him. It should have alarmed him, of course, because buckets can't talk. But Stanley chose not to think about this obvious fact. He was
You think I could land on that and run into wherever that is?
He did whatever the bucket asked.
In here.
Said the bucket.
Go into this dark room over here.
Stanley once again obeyed blindly.
Now pick up the phone.
Said the bucket.
Pick up the phone and it will take us back home, where we can go about life together.
This is the sad story of a man named Stanley and his bucket. Once upon a time, I gave Stanley a bucket because I thought he was lonely and could use a friend. And then, very distressingly, he began to believe the bucket could speak to him.
Hello, Stanley. It's me, your bucket. Press Z to take me to work with you.
The Stanley Parable Reassurance Bucket was merely meant to provide the comforting glow of companionship. It doesn't literally talk and give you orders. Whatever Stanley is hearing the bucket say to him is just in his head.
How dare you? Press F to take me back home if you...
Lately, I've been concerned about him. Wouldn't you be concerned as well? To see him delusional like this, obsessing over an inanimate metal object? I want to say something to him, but I don't know how I can convince him. I don't know if he'll listen to me.
Where's the bucket? Bucket! Well, that's a pot. That's not a bucket. And this is a waste paper basket. That's not a bucket. I think I missed what I was supposed... Oh, there it is. Press T to go back to work.
Well, I'll try anyway. Stanley, can you hear me? Listen to me. It's just a bucket. It can't think, it can't talk. All it would ever truly do for you is effectively transfer a liquid from one location to...
Hey, it could do solids too.
It doesn't do anything else.
Don't listen to the loud man.
You see, he's not listening. He's still taking orders from the bucket. You know, once upon a time it was me he took...
Oh, you're just jealous.
...trusted and listened to. Now all he cares about is his awful bucket. This stupid hunk of metal.
Ooh, is that bucket art? Nouveau postmodern bucket art. Press L to ignore anyone in your life except for me.
It's sad. I suppose he doesn't need me anymore. From now on, he's just going to cling to this bucket, this cold, empty bucket, this sort of shiny bucket. Well, I'll give it this. The bucket does have a nice...
It's my bucket. Get away. You believe I'm real, don't you, Stanley?
Yes, I suppose on closer inspection that it doesn't quite look like your average hardware store bucket. It's just a little more,
The bucket's in the jazz music poster. Oh, that's great. Gee, to relive the same day with me over and over.
Oh my God, what am I saying? Better at carrying water from room to room. It's a bucket. It's literally just a bucket. Why do I feel some need to point out the ways in which it's so much more than just a regular bucket? Oh no. I'm having feelings. For the bucket. No. What's going on? Why do I want to be with the bucket? Hear what the bucket has to say. Do anything it asks. What's wrong with me? I don't understand. Perhaps if I had the bucket, this would be less confusing. Yes. The bucket could tell me what to do in this troublesome situation.
Oh boy. Is this going to get too raunchy for YouTube? I like that the candles are in a frying pan. Hello, Mr. Bucket.
Stanley, give me the bucket. Give it to me. Give me the bucket, Stanley. I need it. Give it to me now. Give it or I'll...
Well. Yes, Wraithgull, that's been bouncing around in my head.
Stanley's office was a distant memory. What did it look like? There was a computer, perhaps, and a painting. Was it a painting or a photo? He could no longer recall.
Oh. Ooh.
A good bucket, a strong bucket, a humble bucket, a committed bucket, a bucket of culture and distinction.
Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his...
Oh, yes, the balloons are part of the sequel.
But Stanley had felt the bucket calling to him, telling him that the employee lounge was simply the place to be.
It's near the end of episode 1, when I went through all the features of the sequel.
Never mind, the bucket was wrong. Stanley took the door on his left, to go back to the meeting room,
I'm going to try and fall on that platform.
said the bucket.
Don't go to the meeting room. Go somewhere else. The cargo lift, yes. Good,
Said the bucket.
now ride the lift all the way to the top. There's something up there I need you to do.
Stanley did not question why or how this bucket was speaking to him. It should have alarmed him, of course, because buckets can't talk. But Stanley chose not to think about this obvious fact. He was firmly convinced that the bucket had spoken to him, and he unthinkingly did whatever the bucket asked.
I am my own free man. What's that, Mr. Bucket? You want me to go over here? Danger. Danger everywhere.
No, stop. Look there on the wall. You see, there's a sign right there. It says, no buckets past this point. Stanley, how could you think it was okay to bring the bucket here? Unless, what if the problem is that you actually don't know what is a bucket and what isn't a bucket? I suppose that would explain a lot about your behavior up to this point. Which, if that's true, well, my goodness, I think we have to do something about it. This misunderstanding will have dire consequences on the entire rest of the game if not addressed quickly and properly. So much of the impact of the story is dependent on your understanding of what is and isn't a bucket. Please, step in here for a moment.
Now, do I want to be wrong because it's funny, or do I want to try and do this?
Now then, I'm going to run you through some test scenarios, and you'll tell me whether or not the thing I'm showing you is a bucket. Simple enough, right? This should tell us everything we'll ever need to know about what is or is not a bucket. Okay, let's begin. Item 1. Is this a bucket? Incorrect. It is a hologram of a bucket, not an actual bucket. Item 2. Is this a bucket? Correct. It is a 3D printed recreation of a bucket, not an actual bucket. Item 3. Is this a bucket? Correct. This is a bucket. Item 4. Is this a bucket? What? Are you hallucinating? This is a tractor. It's an enormous machine that tills the earth. I thought this was a gimmick. How on earth did you manage to screw it up? Absolutely incredible. Let's just move on to the next one. Correct. This is a bucket.
Oh, now it's just screwing with me.
Item 6. Is this a bucket? Trick question. Both. Gotcha. Item... Wait, hold on. I can't find the next one. Let me see. It should be around here somewhere. Okay, you and I both know there isn't anything here. And I don't appreciate the implication that nothing is a bucket when we both clearly know that a bucket is something, and therefore nothing could possibly be something. Unless, in your twisted mind, have you somehow convinced yourself that a bucket is nothing? Answer me straight, Stanley. Do you believe that nothing is a bucket? You know what? I've lost all sense of perspective. What is a bucket? What isn't a bucket? Mere moments ago I could answer these questions with confidence. And yet now I'm somewhat adrift. Do any of us know what a bucket is? Am I a bucket? Stanley, I can't keep doing this. I'm losing myself, and myself was all I ever had to begin with. I'm afraid the bucket is threatening to tear our relationship apart. I can't have that. I'm sorry. But I'm going to erase all buckets from...
No! No!
What happened? Is everything gone? Why did everything disappear? Wait, was everything... Except me. I'm not a bucket after all. And you, Stanley, you're still here. You're not a bucket either. Oh, this is wonderful news. We're not buckets. Yes, I actually feel much more at ease right now. It's delightful to get some clarity on that issue, but it doesn't change the fact that we haven't got a game. So, tell you what, I'll reset everything and we'll put back all of the buckets, okay? And we'll know that it's all a bucket. But if you run into anyone else, maybe don't mention that. Who knows what that information might do to a person? All right, here we go.
I better have access to a bucket.
To check on his co-workers. He never functioned well by himself and constantly needed support and guidance from others.
The embrace of an old friend. A weathered companionship that stands the test of time.
Ooh, now what should I do this time? Oh, I think I know what I'm gonna do.
Touched the bucket tightly to his chest. This was not the correct way to the meeting room, but Stanley had felt the bucket calling to him, telling him that the employee lounge was simply the place to be. And here it was. Had the bucket turned out to be correct? Was it? No, never mind. The bucket was wrong. Stanley took the door on his left to go back to the meeting room.
No,
Said the bucket.
don't go to the meeting room. Go somewhere else. The cargo lift, yes. Go. Good,
Said the bucket.
now ride the lift all the way to the top. There's something up there I need you to do.
Stanley did not question why or how this bucket was speaking to him. It should have alarmed him, of course, because buckets can't talk. But Stanley chose not to think about this.
Is that a balloon up there?
He was firmly convinced that the bucket had spoken to him, and he unthinkingly did whatever the bucket asked.
No, I hopped off last time.
In here.
Said the bucket.
Go into this dark room over here.
Stanley once again obeyed blindly.
Now pick up the phone.
Said, "Whoa, hold on. Why did you unplug the phone? Were you trying to resist the bucket's orders? Stanley, I was joking. Obviously, the bucket isn't talking to you and telling you to do things. Buckets can't talk.
It was a joke. Don't you get the joke? It's funny, Stanley. A talking bucket.
Can't you see? Oh, goodness. I must have really bungled up the delivery if you actually took me seriously. Where did I mess up the joke? Should I have paused for longer or spoken quicker? Comedic timing is so difficult. I wish I were better at it. But there isn't exactly an instructional video on comedy that one can watch to fully... Oh, wait, yes, there is. It's sitting right here. Let's take a look.
What is comedic timing? What is comedic timing? How does it work? How long should it last? How can it be used to effectively silence your protagonist? More importantly, can it be taught in its entirety within 90 seconds? Thankfully, the answer to all of these questions is yes. Let's dive deeper. If you've ever told a joke or made someone laugh, in all likelihood, you did it while standing 50 to 80 centimeters from them in a room of no more than 76 degrees Fahrenheit, with one of your arms raised straight upward at a 15-degree angle from your body. These are the optimal conditions for good comedic timing. To begin the joke, start by stating and spelling your name. Next, provide a brief synopsis of the joke, including the specific times at which the recipient of the joke will laugh, and then spell out your name a second time. With these steps complete, it's time to begin the joke. Speak the entire joke in no more than 18 seconds and no less than 13 and a half, pausing only for bathroom breaks when necessary. When the joke has concluded, it is customary to inform your listener that the joke is...
The joke is over.
Possible voice. I'm Dunny with the funny. Let's practice screaming, I'm Dunny with the funny now.
I'm Dunny with the funny.
Good. This saying is a perfect example of expectations management, which is the cornerstone of good comedy. Finally, it's hard data from your audience.
Data.
How rapt they were throughout the joke is the only way to grow or learn as a comedian. An effective survey should be no less than 10 pages long and should include the same question reprinted several times, just to ensure the survey taker is actually paying attention and not simply filling in answers at random. And that's all there is. With these strategies at your disposal, you'll have audiences doubled over in laughter and even tripled over in
That's terrifying.
no time at all. Just remember to let them stop laughing at some point, you gut-busting little scamp.
Oh,
After all, we're each of us needed on the front lines of the war to fight the 12-legged invaders who threaten our very existence and who very likely die in a hailstorm of bullets and mandibles. All of us must be prepared to give our lives to this noble cause, just as our children must do after us, and their children after them. Godspeed, and may Earth reign supreme.
Hey, goodness, this video is a little outdated, isn't it? Well, no matter. I think the fundamentals of proper comedic timing are still as relevant today as they were back then. So with that in mind, I believe the only way forward is for us to return to the two doors and walk through all of this again, so I can try telling my story with more appropriate comedic delivery. Come along, let's head back.
oh, this should be good.
I can feel it. This time, I'm really going to nail the delivery. You'll be in stitches. A talking bucket, you'll say? How ridiculous. How absurd. What a hilarious concept. The king of comedy. That's what you'll call me. Thank goodness we have the instructional video. Otherwise, who knows where we'd be right now. Well, I wouldn't be the king of comedy, that's for sure. The bucket spoke to Stanley.
The bucket spoke.
The bucket spoke. Oh, I'll figure it out on the fly. No need to overthink things.
Were they dunny with the funny? They were sunny with the runny. Can I open that door? Probably not. But it's worth a try. What if, like, just one of these doors was able to be opened?
Here we go. You ready? When Stanley and the bucket came to a set of two open doors, they entered the door on the left. What? We're back at the phone already? No. What's going on? There was supposed to be several rooms leading up to this. There was supposed to be a build-up to this point, a dramatic display of remarkable comedic wit which culminates in this scene with the phone. But now the timing's completely off. The joke will never land, or not the way it was meant to. And it's all my fault. I must have forgotten that the phone room comes immediately after the two doors room. What an egregious mistake. I've made a fool of myself. I don't deserve the title of King of Comedy. I'm nothing. I'm not even the lowliest joke-telling whelp. I think I need to go back and rewatch that instructional video again. Yes, surely that will help me improve my... Here we go. You ready? When Stanley and the bucket came to a set of two open doors, they entered the door on the left.
I really want to go down the right one again. It's probably the same thing, right?
What? We're back at the phone already? No. Here we go.
Okay.
When Stanley and the bucket came to a set of two open doors, they entered the door on the left. No. You were supposed to go through the door on the right, leading back to the phone. Did you not even look at the instructional video? I think this is all covered very clearly. There's no way I can make the comedic timing work now. It's done. The joke is completely done and over. It's all your fault, Stanley. I'm going to be ridiculed in the community of other joke writers. I'm going to be shamed at every one of our meetings from now on. All because you couldn't watch a simple video and take a hint. Are you proud of yourself for bringing me down, Stanley? Are you proud?
Stanley, you love the bucket so much it's like you... it's as though all of your other most prized possessions pale in comparison.
It's been done.
Let me try that again, Stanley. I heard that you are pale with shame over how unabashedly in love with a bucket you are. No? Still not? Is it the delivery? Pale with shame. Pale with shame? Pale... What's another word to describe a bucket? Stanley, this bucket is so mental. I think I saw
The Lodge.
No. We're getting away from making fun of Stanley's obsession with the bucket.
No time to lose.
I just...
No time to lose.
I need more instructional videos. That's exactly what it is. That's what will make me the king of comedy again. More instructional videos. Let's see.
Sorry, Leroy.
How long was I sitting there? Stanley wondered to himself. Minutes? Days? Centuries? Did something crucial happen while my senses were turned? He made a note to be more careful with time from now on.
The bucket made Stanley want to be a better man and a better co-worker. In time, perhaps, he would become both of those things.
Okay, you know what, folks? I am going to take a break. Let me put on some music, just so you have something to listen to while I take a little rest and refill my water and all that sort of stuff. So I'll leave this on and then I'll be back in about 5 minutes. See y'all then, folks. Yep, let's put that under the BRB. That works. Okay. Hello, folks. Return. Yes, indeed, I do. Okay, well, let us bring that down. Let's bring up my chat again. And we'll go back to Stanley. Okay. Oh. Okay. Now, the question is what to do this time. I think I have an idea what I want to do.
Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his chest and entered the door on his left.
There's one more thing I think I can do with the bucket. I mean, I do have to find this last collectible. And there's a couple of things I want to do without the bucket. But I think that's not exactly...
Coming to a staircase, Stanley and the bucket walked upstairs to the boss's office.
It's hard to tell, you know, if the game is actually leading to like an end point or not. That's kind of worrying. Business strategy. Should I try the elevator again? Probably not.
Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not
Was
a
it like
indication of any
2845? Was that it?
crushed by the weight of, but Stanley guessed the correct code by sheer luck. Was it that the bucket knew all along? Was the bucket guiding him? Yes, this is certainly the most logical explanation.
Bucket, 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 bucket. Bucket. Bucket, 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 bucket. Bucket.
Stanley and the bucket walked straight ahead through the large door that read, Mind Control Facility.
Dun, 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 dun.
The lights rose on an enormous room packed with television
Dun, dun,
screens.
dun, dun,
What
dun, dun,
horrible secret did
dun.
this place hold? Stanley and the bucket both wondered to themselves.
Dun, 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 dun. Dun, 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 dun.
The monitors jumped to life, and Stanley nearly dropped the bucket in shock. Everyone in the office was being videotaped, monitored like guinea pigs. The bucket had never seen anything like this, and it very nearly burst into
No,
tears.
poor bucket.
Stanley cradled it gently, reassuring it that everything would be fine. Was the bucket under the mind control facility's influence as well?
Ooh, Purdy
Had the
likes...
bucket been told to do things it didn't wish to do? What kinds of things does a bucket want to do or not want to do in the first place? These questions raced furiously in Stanley's feeble mind. No! He screamed into the bucket. He couldn't accept it. His own life in someone else's control. Never! He squeezed the bucket tighter. His one friend in the entire world. At this point, he could trust no one except for the bucket.
Oh, right, right.
But here was the proof. The heart of the operation. Controls labeled with emotions. Happy, or sad, or content. Walking, eating, working, all of it monitored and commanded from this very place. And as the cold reality of his past began to sink in, Stanley decided that this machinery would never again exert its terrible power over another human life. For he and the bucket would dismantle the controls for good. Two best friends, Stanley and the bucket, up against the world. They high-fived in a really cool way, and the bucket made a sassy comment about taking down the system.
I'm gonna click no this time.
When at last they came to the source of the room's power, Stanley and the bucket knew it was their obligation to put an end to this horrible place and to everything it stood for. But at the last second, the bucket jumped.
Oh no.
Stanley was prepared to throw the bucket away in disgust when suddenly an image appeared upon the enormous screen. Birds. Silly, silly birds. The control buttons became active again. Stanley flipped through one video of silly birds after another, and then it dawned on him. This wasn't a mind control facility at all. It was a facility for monitoring and surveilling silly birds all over the world.
What the flock?
Mind controls were only a facade to disguise its true intentions. Had the bucket known this all along? Stanley marveled at the metal genius in his hands, the one who had pointed him towards this incredible discovery. Stanley and the bucket never found freedom because they spent the rest of their lives here in this place, flipping through live streams of the silliest birds imaginable. Of all the possible paths his life could have taken, this one was surely the best. And Stanley was happy.
Okay.
Wind blew outside and perhaps rain started, and if it did, it stopped shortly after. Stanley hoped that he would one day see weather.
Not everyone is so lucky to have a bucket, but Stanley is a very lucky fellow. Very lucky indeed. Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his chest. This was not the correct way to the meeting room, but Stanley had felt the bucket calling to him, telling him that the employee lounge was simply the place to be. And here it was. Had the bucket turned out to be correct? Well, no, never mind. The bucket was wrong. Stanley took the door on his left to go back, and so the two of them detoured through the maintenance section and walked straight ahead to the opposite door.
I'm gonna feed the bucket to the bucket destroyer.
Stanley, I'm glad you found your way here. I knew you'd find this place eventually. You see, your friends and I are concerned for you, Stanley. We've come together here because we care about you very much. It's this bucket you're carrying around everywhere. The bucket isn't even from the original Stanley Parable. It's just sequel content. We're the ones that matter, Stanley. Classic characters from the first game, like the adventure line. And
Toasty buns.
because that's what fans want from a sequel. They want more of their favorite jokes, not this bucket that they've never seen before. Yes, I know I'm the one who gave you the bucket, but you're spending too much time with it. Don't you want another story involving the adventure line? We could make the adventure line go somewhere new. Yes, yes, that's what the fans want. Let's do it. Whee! Look at that wacky line. Who knows where it'll go off to next? Oh, and it played some silly music as well. Now this is what the Stanley Parable is all about. Don't you remember all those great jokes from the original dialogue?
Also, Stanley is addicted to drugs and hookers.
Yes, it's as classic now as it was back then. Let's do it for the fans, Stanley. Let's give them more content exactly like this.
Dun,
But
dun, do, do,
you're
do, do,
going to have to
do, do.
give something up.
I think I'm ready.
Don't you get it, Stanley? We need to get rid of the bucket. That's why I'm very proud to introduce a brand new character. This is the Bucket Destroyer. I think it'll make a wonderful new addition to the rich lore of the Stanley Parable. True, it also was not in the original game, but it's such a well-fleshed-out character with so much personality that to me it already feels as though it's been part of the cast all along. Don't you agree? Can you guess what the Bucket Destroyer does? Surely you don't need me to spell it out for you. Go ahead now, Stanley. Say goodbye to the bucket, and then pop it into the machine when you're ready. Now listen to me. It's crucial that you give it the bucket.
Oh, it won't let me give the bucket to the destroyer.
It can't destroy your bucket. Destroying buckets is all it knows. That is its singular personality trait. Sure, I can hear you saying, how does a character with only one personality trait deserve to join the pantheon of beloved Stanley Parable characters? Well, you see, if you were to really explore the Bucket Destroyer, you would see that its desire to crush buckets is so densely loaded with complexity
Well,
that it's really like 10 personality traits. What other object in this game can you even say that about?
that's poor.
Certainly not. I wonder what sort of Bucket Destroyer merchandise the fans will be clamoring for after this. Okay, the Bucket Destroyer is getting very upset now. You'll have to hurry and feed it. We can't get back to the classic Stanley Parable characters like the Adventure Line or the Bucket Destroyer until you crush that damn bucket. Quickly now, the fans are waiting. Do it, the fans, Stanley. Give the fans what they want. Hurry and... The Bucket Destroyer. My prized creation. You had so much potential. We were going to do such marvelous things with you.
Where could that final collectible be?
All of it squandered now. Goodbye, new friend. For the moment in time that you were here, you were magnificent.
Yeah, red and blue it said.
The meeting room. Yes, that's where everyone would be. Stanley just needed to get to the meeting room, and from then on, he would never be alone ever again. When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left.
You can look it up if you want. Maybe give me a little hint or...
Stanley stepped into the broom closet, but there was nothing here, so he turned around and got back on track.
Okay, this is original stuff now.
Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office.
It's in the warehouse with a lift? Really?
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
Yeah, but I had the bucket. Maybe I have to do it without the bucket.
Came to a set of 2 open doors. This was not the correct way to the meeting room, and Stanley knew.
That's what I kind of wanted to do, why I left the bucket behind.
Employee lounge first, just to...
I wanted to go in that room that no buckets were allowed in.
But eager to get back to business, Stanley took the first open door on his left. Stanley was so bad at following directions, it's incredible he wasn't fired years ago. Look, Stanley, I think perhaps we've gotten off on the wrong foot here. I'm not your enemy, really, I'm not. I realize that investing your trust in someone else can be difficult, but the fact is that the story has been about nothing but you all this time. There's someone you've been neglecting, Stanley. Someone you... What? Really? I was in the middle of something. Do you have zero consideration for others? Are you that convinced that I want something bad to happen to you? Why, I don't know how to convince you of this, but I really do want to help you, to show you something beautiful. Look, let me prove it. Let me prove that I'm on your side. Give me a chance. Now listen carefully, this is important. Stanley walked through the red door.
Hey, there it is.
And there it is. The last Stiggly Wiggly. Savor this moment, Stanley. This is a real accomplishment. This is doing something just for the sake of doing it. Where so many people expect to be rewarded for the most trivial achievements, you've insisted that a job well done is its own reward. I would tell you that I'm proud of you for collecting them all, but that would be like a reward. So, instead I'll just say, it's done. We're all done here. And now we can go to whatever the hell you were doing before you hunted for figurines.
There's an ending for all 6, so let's go. Oh, really?
Aha, perhaps you misunderstood. Stanley walked through the red door. I still don't think we're communicating. Stanley walked through the red door. Oh, thank God you are willing to listen to me. Do you see that I really have wanted you to be happy all this time? The problem is all these choices. The two of us always trying to get somewhere that isn't here. Running and running and running, just the way you're doing right now. Don't you see that it's killing us, Stanley? I wanted to stop. We would both be so much happier if we just stopped. And I think I have a solution. Here, let me show you. What do we want? What are we looking for? Here. Yes. Oh, it's beautiful, isn't it? If we just stay right here, right in this moment with this place, Stanley, I think I feel happy. I actually feel happy.
Now who's gonna break first? Narrator or me? Probably me. Whoa. Oh! That's pretty.
No, wait. Where are you going? Oh no. Stay away from those stairs. If you hurt yourself, if you die, the game will reset. We'll lose all of this. Please, no, Stanley, let me stay here. Don't take this from me.
Ha!
Please, Stanley, think about what you're doing.
Okay.
Good, good. We can't be too safe. Promise me you won't go back there. Just stay here.
But here is boring. Okay, we're gonna do it.
No. What do we talk about? You're risking everything we achieved here. You are going to stay here, aren't you?
Oh god, that hurts my eyes.
You heard me before, didn't you? You will die. What about this isn't getting through to you?
Wow.
Thank God. You lived. You had me worried. No. No. What are you doing, Stanley? Please, I'm asking you not to take this away from me. I can't go back to what I was before. If you die, we'll both go back. Why are you doing this?
This is so mean.
Stanley, let's go back to the other room. Can you do that for me?
Oh, I'm moving a little slower now.
Yes, perhaps you can. Perhaps you finally see what I'm talking about. I know you'll see that we can't be happy if we leave this place. You can see that, can't you?
Well, I'm sorry, Mr. Narrator, but change is inevitable. It's a nice place, but we can't stay here.
No, perhaps not.
Wow, moving so slowly.
My God, is this really how much you dislike
Oh.
the game? That you'll throw yourself from this platform over and over to be rid of it? You were literally willing to kill yourself to keep me from being happy.
Oh, this
Am I
is
reading the situation correctly?
so sad.
Or maybe you're just getting a kick out of it. I don't know anymore. I just wanted us to get along. But I guess that was too much to ask. It looks like you wanted to make a choice after all.
Oof.
This one is yours.
To infinity and beyond.
Is it over? It's going to restart, isn't it? I'm going back.
It is a picture.
Stanley, I'm sorry, but I have to put a pause on things. It's those figurines. Those figlets.
Wow.
I haven't stopped thinking about them since you nabbed every last one.
That's freaky, man.
The most intrinsically fulfilling moment of your entire life. Didn't it fill you to the brim with inner richness? Yes, I know we're supposed to be telling a story, but won't you please indulge me with one more trip back to the memory zone? I would love nothing more than to revisit the figurines. Just one more time.
Oh boy. This game.
Here's where it all began. The first collectible. Back then, we had no idea of how many of them we'd find. Sure, it said 6 right there on the screen, but how could we know for certain? We were so innocent. We'll never be like that again, Stanley.
But what does it mean? What does it mean? What is this, Elden Ring?
And here was a second Stanley. I'll be honest, back then I had no faith in you to find any of them, let alone 6. But you continue to surprise me in all sorts of mundane, unremarkable ways. Okay, let's do a little quiz. Which of these rooms was the room you found your third mini Stan? Can you remember?
Red room. Red room.
Hey, that's exactly right. It was here in the boss's bathroom. It was the third one. You picked it up, and then after that, you had 3 of them. I'm glad these moments are so crystal clear in your memory, but I shouldn't be surprised. After all, science tells us that it's impossible to forget your third time doing anything. Let's see, what came next? Oh yes, we found a figly in this pink room.
What?
Well, I can't actually say I remember.
What?
But it's here in the memory zone, so it must have happened.
Dun, dun, dun. Nice.
And this one was really something special. It was in the warehouse. I remember it so clearly. In fact, because this one is particularly special to me, I made a little video to commemorate the occasion. Enjoy.
Oh boy. Clip art.
Takes you back, doesn't it? I spent a lot of time making that video, but it was 8 minutes I
You used to make Windows Movie Maker movies too, did you, Dork?
And then, Stanley, then we came to the last collectible, the final figurine, right here by the red and blue doors. This memory is the most distinct and clear in my mind, perhaps because it was the one that happened more recently than all the others. Who can truly say how the mind works? All I know is that this is the moment where you picked up a figly and I thought to myself, yes, that's all of them. They're all collected. It was a moment unlike any other. Except for the other moments picking up figurines, which it was.
It was exactly like. You are in the present.
And then there was no more.
Whoa! Whoa!
Nothing left to do but move onward into the future. Goodbye, memory zone.
Aww.
No, I'm not done. I'm not ready to move on. Stop the loading screen. Isn't there some way we can stay here, keep enjoying these figurines? Let's just go backwards. We'll do the memory zone again from the opposite direction. See how that feels.
Oh boy, the narrator's got it bad.
Okay, yes, the room with the red and blue doors. I remember this. I must say, of all the figurines we looked at in our initial tour of the memory zone, this one is the most distinct and clear in my mind. Let's keep going. I want more.
I want more. Please, sir, can I have some more?
And here's where I made that video. Don't you remember the video we watched? Yes, I love that video. Still don't remember the pink room, Stanley. Still no memory of this one. Good room, though. A solid room.
It's so pink. You know, that apple must be a pink lady then. I do enjoy a pink lady apple.
These really were a treat to hunt down. You know, if there had been any kind of reward for finding all of these, it really would have muted the intrinsic joy of collecting them. I'm very glad we resisted the temptation. Next one.
That generic rock music is in my head now. Do 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 do. I want to go to the boss's office now. I guess we can't.
This was our second Figley. Don't you remember?
I do.
The past is truly a wonderful thing. Why does anyone ever choose to leave it? Keep going. This is it, the very first one we found in the exhibit where I introduced you to the figlarines. Oh, I want more memories, Stanley. I want to keep going. What else is there? What came before this?
Hey, it's the jump circle.
Look, it's the terrible new content that we were originally sold on. I remember hating it back then. But time does put a rosy filter on everything. In fact, I dare say I'm actually quite fond of it now. Look how much fun the past is. I want more. More memories. Oh, yes, the two doors. Who could have forgotten that? A classic memory, this one. And before everything else, there was your office. Is there anything else? Was there something that came before your office? There's something I feel I can remember. I can remember. Yes, I'm remembering something now. I remember before this whole story got started. Back then I was different. I used to make big decisions. I was passionate. I was skeptical. I weighed each decision with profound thoughtfulness. And then somewhere along the way, I stopped making decisions. I became lazy. And I came up with a character named Stanley to do my thinking for me. He would make the decisions. He would decide which way to go. I would cheer him on as he collected figurines for no reason. Why did I invent Stanley? Was I lonely? Yes, perhaps that's it. Perhaps I needed to imagine...
Should have invented a bucket.
And Stanley really did make for a wonderful companion, even if he was a fiction. But I suppose it's grown old. I want to think for myself again. I want to go back to how it used to be. Yes, I can be on my own again. I can do it. I'll be stronger this time. I'll take care of myself. I don't need Stanley anymore. Oh, but he truly was so much fun to play with. You know what? Since we're in the memory zone, how about one more good memory? Let's go back just once and give Stanley one more run of the office, and then I'll retire him for good.
Oh, interesting.
I did enjoy telling his story so very much. Okay, here we go. This is the story of a man named Stanley.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply...
It takes a lot of humility to carry a bucket so magnificent. Stanley checked his ego and then proceeded on.
How many lines did they write?
Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his chest and entered the door on his left.
What to do with this one, if this is the final round? We got all the collectibles, so this room will be different.
Still no one was here. Stanley needed the bucket's warmth and comfort now more than ever. Perhaps his boss's office was where he'd find answers. Stanley, we must move on from this broom closet, simply because I have no remaining stickers. Coming to a staircase, Stanley and the bucket walked upstairs to the boss's office. Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. Crushed by the weight of this, but Stanley guessed the correct code by sheer luck. Was it that the bucket knew all along? Was the bucket guiding him? Yes, this is certainly the most logical explanation.
Yeah, You're right, Wraithkull. I don't know. Especially the way the Ultra Deluxe has been going, I think there is a through line.
Mind control facility. The lights rose on an enormous room packed with television screens. What horrible secret did this place hold? Stanley and the bucket both wondered to themselves. The monitors jumped to life, and Stanley nearly dropped the bucket in shock. Everyone in the office was being videotaped, monitored like guinea pigs. The bucket had never seen anything like this, and it very nearly burst into tears as Stanley cradled it gently, reassuring it that everything would be fine.
I wonder if maybe I should do this final one without the bucket. It's tough to know.
Was the bucket under the mind control facility's influence as well? Had the bucket been told to do things it didn't wish to do? What kinds of things does a bucket want to do or not want to do in the first place? These questions raced furiously in Stanley's feeble mind. No! He screamed into the bucket. He couldn't accept it. His own life in someone else's control, never! He squeezed the bucket tighter. His one friend in the entire world. At this point, he could trust no one except for the bucket. But here was the proof. The heart of the operation. Controls labeled with emotions, happy or sad or content. Walking, eating, working, all of it monitored and commanded from this very place. And as the cold reality of his past began to sink in, Stanley decided that this machine would never again exert its terrible power over another human life. For he and the bucket would dismantle the controls for good. Two best friends, Stanley and the bucket, up against the world. They high-fived in a really cool way, and the bucket made a sassy comment about taking down the system.
There's 5. I've seen 1 and 2. There's 3. 4 has got to be up here, but I guess something else has to be triggered before you can hit all 5 of them. I think that's a non-bucket thing. If I remember correctly, I have a memory of something like a bomb that's going to go off. Well, let's do the bird's ending again.
When at last they came to the source of the room's power, Stanley and the bucket knew it was their obligation. But at the last second, the bucket jumped in and pressed the button to turn on the controls. Stanley gasped in horror. Had this been the bucket's plan all along? To take over the machine and claim the power for itself? How could the bucket have betrayed him like this? Stanley was prepared to throw the bucket away in disgust when suddenly an image appeared upon the enormous screen. Birds. Silly, silly birds. The control buttons became active again.
Ooh, flamingos. Penguins.
Through one video of silly birds after another, and then it...
What is that?
This wasn't a mind control facility at all. It was a facility for monitoring and surveilling silly birds all over the world. The mind controls were only a facade to disguise its true intentions.
Silly goose.
Stanley marveled at the metal genius in his hands.
Is that a grebe?
Pointed him towards this incredible discovery. Stanley and the bucket never found freedom because they spent the rest of their lives here in this place, flipping through live streams of the silliest birds imaginable. Of all the
Duck.
paths his life could have taken, this one was surely the best. And Stanley was happy.
What a foul ending.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
Stanley cradled the bucket in a gentle embrace, protective yet delicate, assertive yet compassionate. Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his chest and entered the door on his left.
You said you would retire, Stanley, after this. Yeah, I have no idea why the office looks different.
Still no one was here. Stanley needed the bucket's warmth and comfort now more than ever. Perhaps his boss's office was where he'd find answers. Coming to a staircase, Stanley and the bucket walked upstairs to the boss's office.
I'm gonna... Holes in the table?
Just a step through this door, Stanley thought to himself, that's all I need. If I can make it through this door, I can make it through them all. When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left. Yet there was not a single person here either. Feeling a wave of disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his boss's office, hoping he might find an answer there. Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office. Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. Stanley was in such a rush to get through the story as quickly as possible, he didn't even have a single minute to just let the narrator talk. That kind of anxiety isn't healthy, so he relaxed for a few moments with some calming New Age music.
Let me out, let me out, let me out, let me out.
Feeling soothed and rejuvenated, Stanley calmly walked forward into the opened passageway.
Ooh, boy.
Stanley walked straight ahead through the large door that read Mind Control Facility. The lights rose on an enormous room packed with television screens. What horrible secret did this place hold? Stanley thought.
I'm kind of interested now, if anyone wants to look it up, if there's like a final ending.
Now the monitors jumped to life, their true nature revealed. Each bore the number of an employee in the building, Stanley's co-workers. The lives of so many individuals reduced to images on a screen, and Stanley, one of them, eternally monitored in this place where freedom meant nothing. This mind control facility, it was too horrible to believe. It couldn't be true. Had Stanley really been under someone's control all this time? Was this the only reason he was happy with his boring job? That his emotions had been manipulated to accept it blindly? No, he refused to believe it. He couldn't accept it. His own life in someone else's control? Never! It was unthinkable, wasn't it?
Go outside of the map?
Had he truly
I don't know. I don't think so.
blind to the world?
If you take the bucket there, there's a tragedy of sorts. How do I get to that ending?
But here was the proof.
I'm up for new bucket content. Now there's a sentence.
Walking, eating, working, all of it monitored and commanded from this very place. And as the cold reality of his past began to sink in,
Stanley decided that this machinery would never again exert its terrible power over... Oh, Stanley, you didn't just activate the controls, did you? After they kept you enslaved all these years, you go and you try to take control of the machine for yourself. Is that what you wanted? Control? Oh, Stanley, I applaud your effort, I really do. But you need to understand, there's only so much that machine can do. You were supposed to let it go, turn the controls off, and leave. If you want to throw my story off track, you're going to have to do much better than that. I'm afraid you don't have nearly the power you think you do. For example, and I believe you'll find this pertinent, Stanley suddenly realized he had just initiated the network's emergency detonation system. In the event that this machine is activated without proper DNA identification, nuclear detonators are said to explode, eliminating the entire complex. How long until detonation then? Let's say, 2 minutes. Ah, now this is making things a little more fun, isn't it, Stanley? It's your time to shine. You are the star. It's your story now. Shape it to your heart's desires. Oh, this is much better than what I had in mind. What a shame we have so little time left to enjoy it. Mere moments until the bomb goes off. But what precious moments each one of them is. More time to talk about you, about me, where we're going. What all this means, I barely know where to start. What's that? You'd like to know where your co-workers are? A moment of solace before you're obliterated? All right, I'm in a good mood. You're gonna die anyway. I'll tell you exactly what happened to them. I erased them. I turned off the machine. I set you free. Of course, that was merely in this instance of the story. Sometimes when I tell it, I simply let you sit there in your office forever, pushing buttons endlessly and then dying alone. Other times, I let the
Oh, what?
around, swallowing everyone inside, or I let it burn to a crisp. I have to say this, though, this version of events has been rather amusing. Watching you try to make sense of everything and take back the control wrested away from you, it's quite rich. I almost hate to see it go. But I'm sure whatever I come up with on the next go-around will be even better. My goodness, only 34 seconds left. But I'm enjoying this so much. You know what? To hell with it. I'm going to put some extra time on the clock. Why not? These are precious additional seconds, Stanley. Time doesn't grow on trees. Oh dear me, what's the matter, Stanley? Is it that you have no idea where you're going or what you're supposed to be doing right now? Or did you just assume when you saw that timer that something in this room was capable of turning it off? I mean, look at you, running from button to button, screen to screen, clicking on every little thing in this room. These numbered buttons, no, these colored ones, or maybe this big red button, or this door. Everything, anything, something here will save me. Why would you think that, Stanley? That this video game can be beaten? Won? Solved? Do you have any idea what your purpose in this place is? Stanley, you're in for quite a disappointment. But here's a spoiler for you. That timer isn't a catalyst to keep the action moving along. It's just seconds ticking away to your death. You're only still playing instead of watching a cutscene because I want to watch you for every moment that you're powerless. To see you made humble. This is not a challenge. It's a tragedy. You wanted to control this world, that's fine. But I'm going to destroy it first, so you can't. Take a look at the clock, Stanley. That's 30 seconds you have left to struggle. 30 seconds until a big boom and then nothing. No ending here, just you being blown to pieces. Will you cling desperately to your frail life, or will you let it go peacefully? Another choice. Make it count, or don't. It's all the same to me, all a part of the joke. And believe me, I will be laughing at every second of your inevitable life from the moment we fade in until the moment I say, happily ever after.
Okay. Okay, so there's a way to get to the epilogue. Cool. So grab bucket, go through the left door to the boss's office, but then immediately back out. Okay. We'll try that.
All of his co-workers were... Wait, no. This isn't the right office, is it? Is this Stanley's office?
Stanley's bucket. The only co-worker he would ever truly need.
Yep.
Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his chest and entered the door on his left. Still no one was here. Stanley needed the bucket's warmth and comfort now more than ever. Perhaps his boss's office was where he'd find... Coming to a staircase, Stanley and the bucket walked upstairs to the boss's office.
So,
Stepping in...
cool. Oh, that's where I came out of. Now backtrack. Oh. Okay. Am I gonna climb forever? Oh, that's cool. That was a glitch in the first game and they made it into an ending in this one. Well, that's not ominous. We are saying goodbye to the bucket. Go free, little bucket. Press F to pay respects. Okay, so now...
This was uncomfortable, and Stanley decided that as soon as he found a new space he felt safe in, that he would never leave it again in his life.
There is no more bucket. Aww. So how does this end now? Spilled coffee. Oh.
When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left.
So about that epilogue. You have to close and open the game a bunch of times? What?
Yet there was not a single person here either. Feeling a wave of disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his boss's office, hoping he might find an answer there.
5 times it says on the wiki. That probably is related to setting the time. I've done that about 3 or 4 times now. Okay. Let us load up the Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe one more time. He did want to put more sliders in to collect data. Wait, that's their in love. This is probably just friendship. Occuboinkle or a scrumtush. Is it the time that is right now the correct time? Yes. What is time anyway? Yes. Is there anything about yourself that you haven't told me? Yes. Help. Yes. Will you come back to visit me? Yes. So once the settings person asks you to come find them. So I'll quit again. Load up the game. Oh, that was the question. Does anyone truly know? Of course they don't. Nobody knows anything. You and I don't even know each other. We're like strangers. Sure, I've adjusted all of the game settings to your exact specifications, but who hasn't? It's just what I do, like a day job. And now the job is over. There's no more information for me to gather. I've collected all the data on you that I can. I still don't really know you. And you don't know me. And neither of us know what time it is. I guess some settings are just unsettable. But if I'm being totally honest, the clock doesn't do anything in the game anyway. You won't have me here when the game starts next time, but that's okay. Video games were meant to be played alone. You like being alone, don't you? Ha! Well, the joke's on you, because I'm streaming it, and there are people in the chat. So, that's maybe the only information I really learned about you. Well, it's time for me to leave. There's still one more setting that we need to adjust, but it may take a little time before I'm ready for that. It's not really in my job description, but that's okay. Perhaps you'll see me again, if you can find me. Talk soon. So that's the one. Epilogue. There we go. Many, many years later, when buckets have taken over the earth. It's like that other ending. Do I go to the smoke? Let's head towards the sun. That seems like a good idea. I will continue to move. Ooh. So many computer game assets. Oh. Ever think you see movement out like your peripheral vision? And what has the Stanley Parable taught us? I don't know. I am a sucker for a good sunset in the game. Ooh, ruins. Ruins. Runs? Rounds? Isn't that the room with the button? This generates new content. I'm so funny. Hey, what's there on the table? Nothing. It was just Sheen. Just Sheen. Not even Charlie. Cookie Nine's blog, uncompromising gaming content. Like so many, I enjoyed my time with the original Stanley Parable, which underscores how truly disappointed I am with its sequel. Where the first game teamed with originality, the Stanley Parable 2 is dull, uninspired, and often insulting to its fan base. Rather than expand on what made the first game enjoyable, the sequel veers off into territory nobody asked for. An infinitely deep hole? Who cares? Where are the new endings? What about enjoyable bits from the Stanley Parable 1 like the adventure line? Instead, we get an uninspired side quest collecting figurines. Even this diversion feels incomplete. Collecting all the figurines gives you nothing. I must say, though, I found the bucket to be quite comforting. A welcome reprieve from this cat-dog friendship will last forever. We got pretty close. I want to read more. The buttons are lighting. Jimgle all the way. Stanley Parable developers, no more spin-offs, no more sequels. When the Stanley Parable launched a massive success in 2013, its creators made plans to build the property into an entire franchise, but a disastrous critical and commercial reception to the Stanley Parable 2 has prompted the developers to rethink their ambitions, as outlined in the press release they published today. It's clear that more Stanley Parable is just not what the fans want, reads the press release. We thought that we had a vision for the series that players would be excited about, and it turns out this could not have been farther from the truth. The press release goes on to promise to preserve the artistic integrity of the original game and to stop assaulting fans with our reckless and insulting creative visions. The word sorry appears more than 25 times in the press release. Get on the green. Hey, it's more gym buttons. One last gym for good luck. Are those the figurines? $26? Woo! I'm a super collector. Oh, look at that. Thank you for enjoying the new content. Is that another gym button? Hello again. It's nice to see you. But it's terrible to learn that there will never be another Stanley Parable game. Did you read what the developer said? Preserve the integrity of the franchise? What nonsense. Stanley Parable is not sacred. We do not need to protect it. Screw the legacy. Let's keep making Stanley Parable games until the sun explodes. Let's run this franchise into the ground. Let's drag it through the mud and back. If people hate it, who cares? You see, that was the narrator's problem. He was so obsessed with what people thought of his work. Don't make his mistake. Don't cling to the legacy. Let it burn. It's not hard. In fact, let me show you. Together, we are going to make the Stanley Parable 3. Oh, wow. How much longer is this going to go? My butt hurts. It's simple. All we can do is change the number in the game's title screen. We also need a really dumb subtitle for the game, something loud and gaudy. Go ahead, try combining some random words together to make a new title for our game. Stanley Parable 3, Journey to Poison. It's absurd. I love it. Every time you restart the game, we'll advance the number of the sequel by 1, and then we'll pick a new subtitle. That way, the Stanley Parable will never end. Nothing in the game itself will change when you do this either. Adding more content sounds like work. No need to do that. It'll just be the same content recycled again and again and again with a new title screen. What do you say? Shall we go forward with this plan? Pardon me. Should we go forward with this plan? Sure, why not? I like it, but I want you to have a say as well. Let's do it. Good, then it's agreed. A new sequel every time you start the game. And you know what? Since you put faith in my idea, I feel like giving you something as well. You see, I'm noticing that the narrator never found a way to give you the broken achievement, did he? Of course not. I wouldn't expect him to know how. It's been bothering me. Let's fix it. All right there. The achievement machine is all fixed. You see, I'm on your side. We're in this together. We're going to keep this train rolling. Stanley Parable cannot end. It can only spiral in on itself forever. I must keep the wheel turning. I'm ready. Are you ready? Great. There's only one last thing we need to do. Please enter the correct time. What is the time now? It's 3:45. Thank you. Please enjoy the Stanley Parable. So now if I quit and load it up again, I wonder how many of these they put in the game. I'll quit once more. I might stop. Although, I feel like there's so many endings I've never seen. But I might do that in my own time. Otherwise, it's just me flailing around. Or I guess I could find a guide. Stanley Parable 5. I like Curse of the Electrode.
This is the story.
And there we go.
Workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to...
I love the music that they play with this. Okay, well, I think I'll leave it there for today. But thank you all who joined me for this. There was a lot of fun in the chat. You all enjoyed the bucket escapades, as did I. greatly thankful to Dork for getting me those final endings. So we got to see the epilogue. Let's run the Stanley Parable into the ground. Yeah, that was a lot of fun. Well, now that I have my new computer and it seems pretty stable, that was a very smooth stream, if I do say so myself. I'm open to options for next time. Otherwise, I'll pick something myself. I might not be streaming next week because we might be recording the next episode of Post Game Clarity if we're all good. So that's something to look forward to. But in the meantime, yeah, thanks for stopping by. Thanks for watching, even if you're watching the video afterwards. Let me know what you thought of everything. If you want to hint towards other endings that you think are worth getting, maybe I can revisit this in the future. But otherwise, yeah, this was great. It was also very short, which I appreciate. You know, this is no like part 4 of the stream happening. No, easily got it done in like 1.5. But yeah, I hope you all enjoy the rest of either your Friday evening, your Saturday morning, or like me, your Saturday afternoon. See you later, everyone. Now, where do I press to end it? Ah, there I do.